twisted bit of nursery rhyme echoed through her head, one of the endlessly reread child things that now permeated her consciousness. If wishes were fishes, we'd have some to fry. If wishes were fishes, we'd eat and not die. A low thump, a pause, a complete and instant switch in her thinking. He's hit his head. It sometimes happened to people who were unfamiliar with the eccentricities of the old house. Anyone taller than 6 feet had to tilt their head or duck to avoid the low cut of the ceiling at the turn of the kitchen stairs. There were thin, scraping sounds as this person readjusted, recalculated, moved again. She saw fingers wrap the banister like white spider legs. The intruder pulled himself up slowly until he stood at the top of the stairs, features washed to invisibility by the darkness and the way the nightlight shone low behind him. For the briefest of moments looking at that silhouette, she saw her husband, opened her mouth to call to him, ask how he'd gotten home. But your husband wouldn't hit his head, not tall enough. With this thought came clarity. The figure went wrong around the edges and unfurled into a stranger. It's a man. He was tall. His arms hung loose and long. His presence had the distantly familiar rancidness of something wrong and rotten she'd tasted before but couldn't quite place. Do you recognize him? Who is he? He tipped his head and stared directly at the pool of darkness down the long hallway where she stood shrouded. She knew objectively, logically, that it should be impossible for him to see her. How many times had she stood in his precise spot, in his exact pose? How many times had she looked down the dark, off-kilter hall toward the oldest part of the house, where she now stood in her son's room, trying to tell in the middle of the night if the door was open, if her little boy was standing there, never once able to see anything but shadow, because that nightlight on the landing, close to the floor and faint as it was, blinded her to anything beyond its dim reach. Always, every time, she had to be almost at the boy's bedroom door before she could be sure that, yes, there was her son, back out of bed, silently watching her, instead of safe asleep. The light it must blind him. The man's face was made a skull by the shadows, solid black where eyes should be. The light snagged on his lips to cut an over-grinning smile. His whole self seemed to her so huge it was beyond the bounds of reasonable, so substantial it was as though even his mouth, his nostrils, his ears must be filled with flesh. She struggled for air. It was the reality of him, the human details that choked her. His short, sandy hair stuck out sideways, the way a child's does after pressing flat against a pillow overnight. His dark shirt was only half tucked in. He shifted his weight, scratched at the side of his nose, then rubbed at the spot where he must have hit his head. Her eyes went wide. Her blood surged thick and pounded her ears to deafness. She realized she was shaking, had a flash of shame at her total inability to control her own body. She remembered this shame, saw in memory a linoleum floor. No fight, no flight, just complete and utter shuddering immobility. And time. Tick, 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 a clock must be saying somewhere. Tuck, 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 uncountable seconds passing. 1 minute, 2, 10. Breathe, think. He sees you. Can he see you? The man's size was a suffocating reminder of how small she was. His shadow stuck to the ceiling, cast high by the low glow of the nightlight. He's in your house. Your house! This was why her ears were deafened by blood, why terror hollowed her out weightless. Someone who would take that step? Someone who would snap aside that curtain? Oh, yes, someone like that is serious. But maybe he isn't real? Maybe you're seeing.